I've been to see Masters of the Universe, the second live-action film based on the 1980s toy series and animated series. To give you a bit of context on the film, to give you a bit of a synopsis, a bit of a plot, what happens, right? Basically, Prince Adam is sent to Earth with the Sword of Power because after Skeletor attacks Eternia, and he grows up on Earth from being a small child who has memories of his life on Eternia to an adult who is completely obsessed with finding the sword and getting back to Eternia. Eventually, he does find the sword. He gets back to Eternia, then he has to accept that he's going to be the champion. He's going to be the character we know as He-Man. He's going to fight the good fight, but he has to convince people who don't quite believe he can do it because he's a bit of a soppy lad. But eventually he does. Everybody rallies around him, they have a fight. Skeletor meets his match. There's a lot of humour in the film, and a lot of it works. Some of it falls flat, and some of it falls flat because of no other reason than it's poking fun at something and then doesn't stop. For me, there were too many jokes about fisting for the character Fisto. He has a fist. There's a number of sequences early on. A lot of the first, about the third, maybe first half of the film is spent on Earth with Adam trying to negotiate life, and we discover that he's a bit of a soft lad, for want of a better phrase. He remembers all of his time on Eternia. He tells people about his life on Eternia in the larger-than-life things that are there, and none of them believe him. Dates walk out on him. His manager's concerned with him. His manager, incidentally, that he works at a ridiculously politically correct HR company. In some of the trailers, it made a point of the focusing on the name plate he has on his desk, which has he/him on the bottom of it, and people were outraged because it's social media. Why wouldn't you be outraged? And it makes sense. This HR company is so ridiculously politically correct, it hurts. There's a scene that introduces the company with the manager pointing at whiteboards with a mantra on it, and it's I hear you, and then she says, I feel you consensually, and I don't know what the third one was because I feel you consensually made me laugh. So once he gets off Earth, once you get off the silliness of Earth, you get to Eternia, where Prince Adam has to deal with the task ahead of him, and it's obvious that, being the soppy lad that he is, he's not prepared for any of this, but he eventually transforms into He-Man, becomes a great fighter. People still don't entirely believe him, but he rallies them all around. He tries to do it at various points through workshopping, which again is quite fun. But like I say, when the humour falls down for me, it is with the repetition of certain things. It's like we get far too many references to the fact that Adam is all muscle and tanned, and it is the type of thing where, once is fine, like make a point of it once is fine, but when it's 2 or 3 times, it kind of wears out its welcome. Same with the Fisto joke. Same with a couple of scenes. One that stands out to me is there's a reference to Highlander earlier on in the film because he's got a sword and the police catch him, and one of the policemen just goes, "Oh, nice job, Highlander," something daft like that. Later on in the film, there's a piece of music used. It's Prince of the Universe, which I associate with Highlander, and it's one of those. The second it started playing, I was thinking, oh, that's from Highlander. And there's a bit of stupid humour in it as well, where there's an explosion, they're walking through the smoke, and then all of a sudden the characters start coughing. And my first thought was, oh, it's poison gas, so that's nice, they've walked into poison gas, they're probably all going to fall unconscious and be held hostage again. It wasn't, they were just coughing, and nothing was done with it. I don't know what I'd want to be done with it, but if there isn't a punchline to the joke, don't tell the joke. Unless the joke was, they're walking through smoke and trying to look heroic and now they're coughing. Oh, well done. There were a couple of other things as well, particularly later on in the film where there was big battles going on, and we'd cut to a scene with a couple of people chatting away, and we didn't feel like, well, I didn't feel like they were in the battle, even if they were. You know, like they might as well have just timed out and stopped time, and then had the conversation, and then time up again, and on it goes. And it was a bit unfortunate, and again, these are all. I mean, am I nitpicking? I'm not sure. I probably am, but I just felt that the disjointed moments led to an inconsistency in the storytelling. When I was leaving the cinema, I spoke to just another guy who'd seen it, and he said that he stopped being interested when he heard Jared Leto as Skeletor. Not heard of, but heard him in the film, he said, because it was a bit Frankenfurter. And the guy was right. So with this cleaving towards the animated series, it has that campery of the animated series. So Skeletor is doing these really bombastic, over the top pantomime speeches where he's calling people, you know, like snivelling worms, and you know, like, why am I surrounded by all these idiots? You know, and then they play on that, and it is quite fun. But he sounded very much like Tim Curry as Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show, not, as some people seem to think when they saw him in the trailer, Bane, played by Tom Hardy in the Batman film. It's possible that they changed that they had him re-record his dialogue, because it's not like he was. It doesn't appear to be him playing the part as you know, you can't see his face; it's a skeleton face. So it's possibly him on set, but I imagine they could just rewrite the dialogue. You could re-record the dialogue, and there'd be no big fuss doing that. Other performances, Nicholas Galitzin, it's the first thing I've seen him in as Adam. He had that whole he had that whole Clark Kent about him down pat, and I really enjoyed the performance. I thought it was great as He-Man as well, to be honest. Also, there are explanations as to why the characters have names like Ram-Man, He-Man, Moss-Man, Fisto, Mechaneck, and they all do make sense. There are a couple of throwbacks to the first live action film. It's well known because he's been in a lot of press for it. Dolph Lundgren has a cameo in it, and it's quite a fun cameo that includes a line drop, which is quite nice. There's another character that is one of the little gathering of thugs that is a throwback to the 87 film. Like I say, a lot of the costumes, a lot of designs emulate the 1980s animated series. There are moments. There's the first mid-credit scene is a throwback to the whole "what have we learnt today" type thing, with a fun character. The second introduces the potential of a sequel, and I do hope the film gets a sequel. There is a moment towards the end where somebody says something, all the characters throw their head back and laugh heartily. That's fine. Then it goes on for a bit too long for my liking, but there you go. The performances were great. Like I say, Galitzin was great. Camila Mendes, who I last saw in Riverdale as Veronica, she was very fun as Teela. That was fun. Idris Elba, it was at his Pacific Rim finest when it comes to the role of Man at Arms. Jared Leto was fine. I enjoyed Jared Leto, Frankenfurter aside, as Skeletor as well. There are other characters in there. I mean, there's a talking robot voiced by Kristen Wiig. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel we've overdone robots with attitude now. I mean, if you've seen Superman, you'll know what I mean. They're talking about scenes where it feels like something else. So we have Highlander, we have a talking robot a la Superman, and anything else that's got talking robots in it, to be honest, but that's the most recent touchstone for me. There was a scene later on in the film where something horrible happens to Adam and all looks lost, and he gets pulled to somewhere else. The sorceress as a bird talks to him and does a whole thing that got me thinking of Thor Ragnarok, where Thor is asked, "What are you the god of again?" And he, goes to that bit of grass. You've got Anthony Hopkins there as his dad, Odin, and it's like, what are you, the god of a game? You know, are you the god of hammer? Are you Thor, god of hammers? And I'm sure it wasn't a direct reference to it, but it was one of those things, very much like the Highlander music thing, where I was thinking, oh, that's from this. In fact, there's a bit in some of the music where it almost sounded like it was going to be the Jaeger theme from Pacific Rim. I may have misinterpreted that. It may have just been a similar note progression, but that's how it felt to me. But all in all, even with all the bits that didn't land, even with the moments that felt a bit disjointed, I did enjoy much of the film. And when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'll probably pick it up, particularly if it has special features that, you know, look at the back, you know, the history of He-Man and Masters of the Universe, you know, like the comics, the books, the cartoon, the toys, all of that. If there's a lot of retrospective stuff on it and a decent set of making ofs, I'll pick it up. If there isn't, I'll wait for it to appear in a charity shop for £1. They do set up for a sequel. Like I say, I'm interested in there being a sequel, considering the number of films that spawn into sequels, despite the fact of them not being very good. It would be a shame if Amazon MGM looked at this and thought, oh no, we won't bother. There's plenty. It's not like there's a shortage of stuff to make a sequel from. You've got a whole toy line to exploit. You've got all of the add-on things. And in fairness, the second of the post-credit things does set up a sequel, not directly He-Man related per se. No, it is directly He-Man related, but it's not He-Man. There's, you know, I mean, it would be interesting to see what it is, because at the moment, it was sitting on a 6.2 out of 10 average rating on Rotten Tomatoes the last time I looked. According to this entry, the self-deprecating script and spirited cast, Masters of the Universe is a delightful adventure that fans the humanity in He-Man. And it does. It really does. Galitzin is great with that. Galitzin is great getting that, you know, like the emotional, the emotion, the naivety, the wanting to find hope in everything out of the character of Adam, and as well as being the physical presence that he needs to be as He-Man. I think it was fine. When I left the cinema, in reality, I was a bit deflated by it, because I was hoping for more emotional weight, which is the other thing. There are a number of emotional scenes in the film that don't feel like they have weight to them. By this, I mean, if I look at something like the first two Guardians of the Galaxy films, there are scenes in that make me emotional. Same with Superman as well, the recent Superman film. There's a couple of scenes in that really have emotional weight to them, and I don't feel that way about this film. I mean, it may be that I'm just cold-hearted, but yeah, I don't feel that the emotional moments were emotional. But yeah, action sequences, the nostalgia, you know, the performances, can't fault any of those. Can't fault the plot, the story itself. Sure, it's not original, but you know, you've had, you know, what am I expecting out of this? You know, it was engaging, it was entertaining. It was just, there were a number of missteps where it felt disjointed. But yeah, that's it really. That's all I can say about the film. I'm very far back in the frame, aren't I? My lord. That's how I feel about the film. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, I might go see I'm planning on seeing more films during June and July anyway at the cinema, so I might do more of these if I can remember to. But yeah, like, share and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.